In this tutorial, we are going to solve a system of equations using something called Cramer's rule. The first thing that we are going to do is figure out what the x value is of our system of equations. And to do that, we start by writing x is equal to, and then we draw a fraction bar. And what we're going to have for the numerator are 4 different numbers, and for the denominator, we're going to have 4 different numbers. And here's the order that you have to follow. The first 2 numbers that we're going to write are actually going to be right on top of each other for the numerator. And for the x value, those 2 numbers will always be these 2 numbers right here. So it's kind of like we just drag the last 2 numbers down that are right on top of each other. And what we do right next to those 2 numbers is we take the middle 2 coefficients, and we have to also use the signs that are in front of each one of those coefficients, and drag them down right next to these numbers. So we have 7 and -5. Now for the denominator, we're going to take the first 2 coefficients and write them in this position. And the 2 numbers that we write here are always going to be the middle 2 coefficients. So when setting up the numbers to determine the x value, notice that these 2 numbers will be the same as these 2 numbers. So those will always be determined by your middle 2 coefficients right here. And the first position is going to be the last 2 numbers. And on the bottom, these 2 numbers will always be the first 2 coefficients right here. Okay. Now here's what the next step is. What we're going to do is find the cross products of all of these numbers. Let's start with the numerator here. So what we do is we take this number here and we cross multiply it with -5. And 13 and -5 results in a product of -65. And as soon as you get that cross product, you must subtract it from this cross product. 13 times 7 is equal to 91. And then we have to divide it by doing the same process on the bottom here. So starting with 5 and -5, we cross multiply that and we get a product of -25. And then immediately we have to write a subtraction sign, and we subtract from the other cross product, which is 14. Now all we have to do is simplify this expression right here, and that is going to tell us what our x value is for the system of equations. So for the numerator, we have -65 minus 91, which results in -156. And for the denominator, we have -25 minus 14, which is -39. -156 divided by -39 is equal to +4. So we have determined that our x value for the system of equations is equal to +4. Now what we can do at this point is just substitute this x value in for either one of these x values and solve for either one of these y values. So what we're going to do is take this first equation, 5x plus 7y equals 13, and substitute in for x the value of 4, and then solve for the y value. So first we're going to take 5 and 4 and multiply that together, which is 20. And then we're going to rewrite the product of 7y is equal to 13. Next we can take this 20 and subtract 20, so that cancels, and send it to this side of our equation, which now gives us 7y is equal to -7. And now what we have to do is take what we have here, 7y equals -7, and we have to take this 7 and divide it by itself so we can get +1, and do the same thing on the other side of our equation. And that leaves us with y is equal to -7 divided by +7, which is -1. So now we know that where these two lines would intersect on the coordinate plane would be an x value of 4 and a y value of -1. Let's try another example. So to figure out what this x value is, what we do first is start by writing the last two numbers right on top of each other in this position. And then we take the middle two terms, in this case it would be +5 and +7, and write them in this position right here. And then for the denominator, we are going to take the first two coefficients, 3 and 5, and write them in this position. And remember, these two numbers here will be the same as these two numbers right here, so let's just write 5 and 7 once again. Okay. Now that we have the numbers in their proper positions, we're going to start by finding all of the cross products, starting with 33 times 7, which is equal to 231. And right away we have to write a subtraction sign because we always subtract this cross product with this cross product. 51 times 5 is equal to 255. And we do the same thing for the denominator. 3 times 7 is 21. And we subtract from that this cross product, which is 25. Now for the numerator, we have 231 minus 255. And that is equivalent to -24. 21 minus 25 is equivalent to -4. And when you have two negatives that are being divided, that will result in a positive. So -24 divided by -4 is equal to +6. So we have determined that the a value, and notice here I put an x, it's actually an a in this case. So let me just stick an a right there. So the a value is equal to 6. So now what we can do is substitute this 6 in for this a and solve for b. Well, in this case, we can just do a little bit of mental math. If we substitute 6 in for this a, 3 times 6 is 18. And we know that 18 plus 15 more would be 33. So to make 15 using this 5 here, we would have to multiply it by 3. So b must be equal to 3. And let's just verify these results by substituting 6 and 3 in for this a and this b down here. If we took 5 times 6, that would be 30. And if we added that to the product of 7 times the b that we saw for, or 3, that would be 21. And 30 plus 21 is equal to 51. So that is basically how you can use Cramer's rule to figure out the solution for a system of equations.